Okay, we're live. Hi, and hi everyone. This is Margot from Birth.World, and I'm back again with the amazing Joanne Young. She is the founder of the Healing Cuisine, which is an amazing resource. I highly recommend anyone going there wanting to cleanse or for any amazing information on just being healthy. And so, welcome, Joanne. Welcome back to the Birth.World.
Thank you, Margot. So happy to be here.
I'm just so thrilled that you're with us. I'm so happy to have you and your all your information. And I know last time we talked a lot about the microbiome and the gut. And so I'd love to kind of dive deep into that today with you. If you could help our viewers and listeners really understand the human microbiome.
So it's the new M word in science. It's the new frontier in human physiology, the microbiome. We're finding, like in the holographic universe where everything is contained within the cell, we're finding in our own bodies we're like a planet hosting all of these different colonies of microbes. So we have friendly bacteria and unfriendly bacteria. We used to think that the body was sterile and the infant was sterile at birth, but now we're realizing that we're actually more microbes than we are human cells. So that we're actually more microorganisms than we are mammal.
Amazing.
So they're finding now in science, and what they're studying now with functional medicine is the microbiome, which it consists of, our body, let's say the microbiome is 95% of the microbes in our body. And then we have different colonies in different areas of our body. So inside our body and on our body, we have these microorganisms. And they're finding that these are affected by all kinds of things, but mainly as adults, it's affected by what we feed ourselves.
Right. And I love how all of this ties into humanity to birth, anything from conception. So I'd love to get all that in. I'd love to talk a lot about that. So some of the things you mentioned, the nutrition, just maybe can we talk a little bit about what helps our microbiome?
Well, most of the American or Canadian, North American diet today, it consists of processed foods. And the processed foods, almost every single processed food that you find on the shelf today is composed of 4 ingredients. Corn and soy and oils and... Hi, Maddox.
Yes, my son is joining us for this interview, and he's just going to hang out with me here. So,
What happened in our... That's fine. It's nice to see him. You look awesome.
Yeah, we're having a great time. It just started snowing here today. So, what was that?
A white Christmas.
Yeah, which is always nice here in Canada. Unlike Costa Rica, I love it. You guys are all tanned. So so we'd love to hear more about what you were saying.
So it's about our diet, about eating processed foods, eating fast foods. And unfortunately, that's what most of our diet consists of these days, because everyone is working really hard and really in a rush to get on to their next step. And so sometimes, sorry, my phone. There we go, airplane mode. So sometimes we have no choice but to grab fast foods. And there are no, I mean, it's starting to emerge now, but there aren't a lot of good choices in fast foods. And what we're being fed by the media today is telling us things that are apparently good for us and good for our children when they're actually not. They're harming our microbiome. So there are some categories like soy, dairy,
What about
wheat,
corn?
corn, absolutely. These are things that are not feeding our microbiome. They're killing off our microbiome.
And they're in everything.
Like probiotics and NSAIDs, which are anti-inflammatories. These are also killing off our good bacteria. So what we're finding today in allopathic medicine, which has a wonderful place in society, especially with epidemic disease and emergencies, is that it's not about epidemic disease anymore. We're seeing a lot of chronic inflammation. And this chronic inflammation can all be sourced into the health or the symbiosis of the microbiome. So in studies where they've taken a focus group and fed them all kinds of fast, meaty, dairy-filled, egg-laden foods and snacking on like chicharrones or pork skin, that it's really destroying the microbiome. So we used to have trillions of different different diversity of bacteria, and now we're finding only 1,000 different diverse bacteria. So in a diet, in that focus group, they found that slowly the people's bacteria began to diminish. And the great news is that one day of a plant-based diet helped immediately restore a lot of that bacteria that was lost during that diet.
How exciting. How exciting just to know, because it kind of puts the power back into our own hands. You know, if we have been living a certain way, or if we kind of get off the healthy bandwagon, we can always get back there.
Yeah, well, it's really exciting for me because I'm a holistic nutritionist and a chef, and I've always had the intuition that food is healing, and I've studied healing with whole foods in both in Ayurvedic medicine, and that it doesn't have to be raw, but living foods are so good for our body, and they create all kinds of great food and prebiotics for our probiotics, which are our healthy bacteria or the friendly microbes that we're talking about.
So you mentioned symbiosis. Now, so what is the opposite? What is dysbiosis? Can you just kind of highlight that for us?
When our unfriendly bacteria it has a higher ratio than our good friendly bacteria. So we need to maintain that good friendly bacteria to ward off disease and inflammation. And when we have more unfriendly bacteria, we have a dysbiosis. So this is where we're finding disease. And it's amazing now with functional medicine how they're doing research and reversing inflammatory diseases that we had no idea, could be done. Things like IBS, ALS. We're even affecting autism and depression because the microbiome has this incredible relationship communicating with our brain. And when we have inflammation in our gut or our microbiome, we have the inflammation in our brain.
Wow. And so there's so many diets out there, these days, the GAPS and paleo, plant-based, all of these things that people come across on a daily basis. What would you say, in your experience, is if we can say the best, or if we can say the best, most beneficial diet for our microbiome? Would you label it, or would you just say it's simply plant-based with a bunch of ferments?
I would say, because organic is the most important thing when you're going to be putting food and nutrients into your body. So you want to be filling your body or feeding your body and your child's body with nutrient-dense, organic or non-GMO food, more importantly. Because there's all kinds of information out there about genetically modified food, and the real importance is the synthetic chemicals that they use on genetically modified food is they're actually finding is also killing our friendly gut bacteria. And this is why we say GMO foods cause digestive disorders and inflammatory diseases. It's all related area. So what I love is that this goes back to Hippocrates, the founder of medicine, and his quote is, "Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food." So pharmaceuticals as well, though there is definitely a place for them, for penicillin and things like that, but those, we want to try and feed ourselves organic, whole, mostly plant-based foods. That will feed our microbiome, and that will help our health. And we want to try and get ourselves off of a lot of the pharmaceuticals that we're taking for different ailments that maybe are causing more disruption and causing us to need more pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, it's quite the uphill battle with once sickness or illness happens, isn't it? It's obviously so much better to prevent something from happening, but once it's there, it's that struggle of do I Do I cover it? Do I take some pharmaceuticals, or do I try to go down and, thank you, Maddox. Do I try to get to the source of the problem? So I'm really, that's amazing. You and I have known each other for quite some time, haven't we? And
Yeah.
you've always been this kind of really healthy, vibrant person. And so I've always appreciated that because it's super inspiring. And so now that I have children, I'm just even obviously when we have kids, it's like, this shove happens, or like I'm even more inspired to change some of the things and live a healthier life, which we have been doing. So I wanted to thank you for that, for being the inspiration in our life. And I want to tie it into how babies, like when our babies are first born, how do they encounter healthy bacteria, this microbial colonization?
So colonizing the microbiome begins before birth, and it actually happens through generations. So they're finding now that our microbiomes are less and less diverse as the generations go along. So it comes from the epigenetics as well. And then it starts with the parents and what type of environment they're in when they conceive, their nutrition, their state of calmness or stress, and what chemicals they're exposed to. And then it happens again, we're finding inside the placenta. So the amniotic fluid is full of microorganisms and friendly organisms that our babies, while they're in utero, are actually swallowing and taking these amazing bacteria. So the placenta is also, what the mother does while she's taking care of herself and while she's pregnant. Trying to avoid antibiotics is one of the really important things, because they're finding a lot of research is finding that the antibiotics have a huge effect on our children, which means is a result in gut health and our immune system, but also the microbiome in the first 2 or 3 years of life is really just colonizing. So it's crazy, because I think the statistics are by the time we reach 3 years old in North America, children have already had up to 6 runs of antibiotics. And what's happening is it's going to affect health in the long run.
It's crazy to think back when a lot of us were children, this information our parents did not have. So it's crazy to think how many rounds we've been on or something like that. And as a result, what happens to us in adulthood, certain infections and, our bodies and systems kind of going crazy. I am curious about the mother and the baby and their microbiome. First of all, are they the same? And the second part of the question, is there a difference in how we birth? So delivering via C-section, would that affect the microbiome?
Absolutely. Their microbiomes are very similar. Like mother has different, like I said, different colonizations on outside of our body, inside of our body. There are different colonies in every organ. It's like we're like I said, like the holographic universe where we look at the planet and different people all over the planet, that we have different organisms all over our bodies like that. So actually what they're finding is one of the first really big doses to colonize our microbiome is actually through birth. So it's the birth canal that is full of all these friendly bacteria. So when we're having a natural birth, the baby gets all of these amazing microbes in their system, and it's such a great start. Cesarean babies, they don't have that first dose of microbes. So what they're doing now is seeding.
I'm so excited about that topic. Can you highlight what that is and maybe go into some detail on that? Because parents want to know. Obviously, C-sections happen and certain things happen, and some things we absolutely can't control, where some women choose to have a C-section. And so what can they do for their babies, Joanne?
So one of the things that we can do when we're planning to have a baby or we go into labor is because we don't know when we go into labor if we're going to be having a natural birth, although we all long to have a natural birth. We don't know what's going to happen during the course of our labor. And so one of the things that we can do to ensure that we can seed our baby with these microbes is something called seeding, which is when we take some sterile gauze and we soak it in a saline solution.
Hi, puppy.
Indoor, outdoor living here, so everything is open.
We remember. We loved visiting that area. We saw your place. And I think we met your dog, too.
Chico.
I think he wants to be part of this.
He doesn't. It's just a passerby.
Okay.
He's communicating with the neighbor's dog.
Nice. Nice.
Right, so we take this sterile bath soaked in saline solution, and we actually insert that into the vagina.
Wow. Wow. And
You can do this, or before labor. Really get a huge dose of those friendly microbes during the course of our labor as well.
Yeah.
And so the seeding is before you go into labor, you take that gauze out. Yeah. And I said before you actually give birth.
Yeah.
That gauze goes into a sterile container, and then once the baby's born, if the baby happens to have to be born by a cesarean section, they'll use that gauze that is soaked in the mother's microbes and rub it all over the baby. So on the baby's face, all over the baby's body, and even inside the baby's mouth. So now these babies aren't at a disadvantage anymore. They're getting that first dose in the birth canal.
How amazing. Now our hospitals, sorry, go ahead.
But in the birth canal or outside of the birth canal.
Yes. It's so incredible that has actually, I mean, I know that I know a few midwives who've done this. I'm wondering if you know if any hospitals that have taken this on. Or
Mama, eat it.
It's actually more popular in Australia, the seeding hospitals, and also they've been doing some studies. I think it's the University of New York, but they were doing the studies in Puerto Rico actually.
Wow.
So I'm not sure about.
No, eat any of this on this.
I know that some doctors who are having the
interview. No, I did not eat it, baby. Excuse me for 1 second. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Give me 1 second. Okay, Mommy's just on. This is Joanne. She's in Costa Rica. Do you remember?
You ate it. I said you ate it.
Pause for 1 second. Okay, we're back on, Joe. So we were talking about. I mean, it's so exciting. You're telling me. Was it Puerto Rico?
Yeah, the University of New York were conducting studies and seeding. In Puerto Rico.
Amazing. I love the whole concept because it is another. Parents really need to know if they want that to be an option or to give their children kind of a head start on their gut flora. And I was reading so many interesting things, and maybe you can talk about this, like about babies and how growing up, if we can give them the start, they're prone to a lot less illness.
It's true. I mean, breastfeeding has a huge. Breastfed babies in comparison to formula-fed babies are also showing a huge difference in biodiversity of their microbiome of this gut flora. So they're also getting huge doses through mother's milk, and we can actually increase the good bacteria in our breast milk with our diet. So diet is really fundamental for those stages of growth. And then the first few years of our life, the first 2 to 3 years, from pre-birth to 3 years old, we're really colonizing that gut bacteria, and that's what's going to stay with us for the rest of our lives. And that we can't really recolonize it. I mean, we can ferments are sort of recolonizing bacteria that we can take. So when we take probiotics in capsule form, these are transient. So these are only in our system while we're taking them. When we stop taking oral probiotics in the capsule form, we don't have it in our system anymore. That's why we call it. And then the colonizing bacteria are from fermented foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir, things like that.
Amazing.
Important as them with a root plant-based start to life. This is what's going to help them grow their microbiome, and then we kind of go through life until our 60s with that same column. We can change it depending on how we touch our bodies, and it really starts to decline in our 60s. But that's in terms of disease and neurological disorders, the microbiome has impacts. We are seeing in North America a lot of high increases in rheuma and food allergies and food intolerances from not really establishing that bacteria in the beginning.
Wow. It's crazy. It affects everything. And I am wondering, for those of us who, viewers and listeners who'd like to know, do you supplement for your children? You mentioned plant-based, and I know we're going to get these questions. Thank you, Maddox. If the nutrients that they're getting, when you say plant-based, do you just give them real food? Do you supplement? What's your protocol?
Yes, whole unprocessed foods.
Okay, whole unprocessed, organic, non-GMO foods.
Unless we're traveling and I'm really having a hard time making sure they have the whole spectrum or the whole rainbow of nutrients or the whole rainbow of foods, then I would supplement. But I mean, supplementation can be, with spirulina. We have smoothie every morning, spirulina in the smoothie, and we have chia seeds also in our smoothie every morning. So we're getting the essential fatty acids. If you're a vegan or a bodybuilder, then you really want to focus on getting more protein and iron and things like that. And those things are kind of difficult to find. And even things like L-carnitine and these kinds of proteins that come from carne or meat are hard to get. So if we were vegan, which we're not, we do eat fish and we do eat organic chicken and we do our bone broth with organic chicken. But if you're vegan, you do have to supplement with things like L-carnitine to make sure you're getting those proteins, and also to get your B12 and the log, which is really hard to get for a vegan. You have to use things like nutritional yeast, which is another bacteria. And you want to make sure you're getting enough iron, and when you take iron, you want to make sure you're taking it with vitamin C so that your body can absorb it.
They're upstairs.
No, that one's behind the computer.
Grams of protein, and our fruits and vegetables have between 5 and 30 grams of protein. So unless we're really trying to build muscle, or we don't get a lot of protein, or we're worried about we're vegan, then we want to look at sources of protein. But we get lots of vegan sources of protein, like pumpkin seed and hemp hearts, which are not only full of protein but essential fatty acids as well.
Hemp hearts are amazing.
And you can take fish oil. I suppose.
Fish. No, I get excited because we do all that. I love it because when you mentioned spirulina and chia, like that's in our smoothie every morning. And it's not, I find, like, for everyone listening, I want to talk to you, Joanne, just about we'll end with this maybe about children, you can get them used to these things. And of course, it's better early on, isn't it? When you start as early as possible. Yeah. And I know I've talked to parents who have a hard time getting it into their routine, but that's just it. It will take a while, I think, won't it?
And our kids are really highly influenced by other children. So my kids, I was really lucky. One of my girlfriends, when I had my son Dylan, was vegan, and my son looked up to her daughter, who was 3 years older, and her daughter would chomp on seaweed all the time. And so I would give him seaweed, and he'd be like, oh yeah, this is what Raven eats, and he would eat seaweed. So if he wasn't going to eat the salad on his plate, I knew that he had some greens and he had some really good minerals in his body because he's snacking on seaweed. So there's all kinds of cool things you could do, but starting them young and getting them to taste things early, them in that routine, and also educating our kids, like letting them know that they're good and thrive when they eat these kinds of foods. You have kids that are growing up on sort of calorie rich, nutrient poor diets with breads and pastas and things like that, and we think that's all that our children will eat, but there are alternatives to those things.
Right.
And we need to introduce that too.
I'm excited about your book. Can you just talk a little bit about your upcoming book? I wanted to plug that in
So
here.
Working on a book to increase the fiber that our kids get. Because
that's so exciting.
Actually, the fiber is what feeds our short-chain fatty acids, and that's what, our short-chain triglycerides, which is what helps the colon propagate the good bacteria. And by fiber, I mean fruits and vegetables. And most kids love fruits, not so high on vegetables. So I'm writing a book with Giselle. She's doing the forward for me, and it's about just a little bit about the microbiome and why it's important for our kids to eat these things, why fiber is so important, and how to get these fruits and vegetables into their diet without really making things really strange for them.
Right on.
So we're working noodles and things with vegetables, and it's not about hiding the fruits and vegetables in their diet. It's about actually showing them that fruits and vegetables can be delicious. A lot of our kids' perspective on food comes from us. And so, if we're like, broccoli, then they're going to be like, oh yeah, broccoli. And like I said, kids are really influenced by other kids. So, for example, my friend's son, I was feeding them cauliflower one night, and my son, he looked up to my son, Graydon, my younger boy, and I was like, Graydon, you should, when you eat the cauliflower, be like, yum, this is good, I love it. And because Benny had never eaten cauliflower before, and so when Graydon was like, yum, I love this cauliflower, even though it's not his favorite food, he ate it, and all of a sudden Benny was like, yeah, cauliflower, my new favorite food. And so, how we see other children influence our kids in positive and negative ways, that we can actually use that to our advantage, that when they look up to kids, and especially if these kids are already into eating healthfully, our children will want to follow them. And I've had clients with children who were super ultra picky, and these recipes have been tested on them, which is great. And I had a 5-year-old little girl say to me, like, thank you for feeding us food that doesn't hurt my tummy.
Oh, so sweet.
And that's really cool. And the parents were thrilled. Like, they've never seen their children eat so much food.
Amazing.
Because they've been feeding them foods that didn't agree with their tummies, and the kids didn't want to eat that food because they know our kids are naturally intuitive, and they can see and feel the vibration of food. And even genetically modified food, when they do studies with lab animals and they feed them genetically, they have a choice between organic or genetically modified food. The animal will just instinctually go to the organic food, because I believe that they can see the vibration of the food, feel the food. It has a higher frequency.
That's so incredible and inspiring, and it makes so much sense, and that's what we want to feed our children, isn't it? The good stuff. I'm so excited to implement everything that you're providing in your book, and I'm really happy that you're part of Birth.World. I look forward to spreading the word about it as well, to everyone. I think all parents need it, at least to know it's an option, for nutrition, and I'm so excited about that. Thank you so much again for joining me. Thanks for joining me. Yeah, and I'm really thrilled and excited, and I'm going to be posting all your links, Joanne, here for everyone to hear, to see.
Thank you. I look forward to contributing more to Birth World. I'm really excited having this hub, and not only for parents of children of all ages, but expecting parents and just the general public, because everybody is everybody is associated with birth one way or another.
And just a heads up for everyone, we are going to have a full section just on nutrition, on just health, and so everyone can be directed there. And Joanne is going to kind of spearhead that. She's going to be the amazing voice behind that, and I'm really excited for some upcoming interviews that you're doing as well, Joanne, both on birth and nutrition. So we're going to post it all. I love it. Thanks so much again.
I'm excited to interview some of these women in my community that are raising their children in an organic, natural way.
Amazing. We cannot wait. So I'm going to stay tuned for that, everyone. Okay, everyone, Margot from Birth.World signing off, and my little guy is asleep. There we go. Bye, everyone.